Sheep pastoralism was one of the earliest industries in Australia. By 1800, there were just 6,000 sheep. By 1821, the flock had grown to 100,000. Thanks to pioneers like John MacArthur, who imported and improved merino breeds, wool became the colony's economic foundation. By the mid-19th century, Australia had 13 million sheep, far exceeding local demand for meat, and wool production surged. Exports reached 19 million kilograms by 1850, 210 million by 1890, and over 350 million by World War I. London became the center of the wool market, feeding the insatiable demand of British textile mills. But by the 1880s, auctions began shifting to Australia itself, in Melbourne, Sydney, and later other cities, making them the heart of the world's wool trade. By 1900, Australia was the largest global exporter, supplying about 40% of world wool and dominating the market in fine merino. With wool, a valuable and time-sensitive cargo, speed was crucial. Thus emerged the legendary wool clippers, sleek, three-masted sailing ships with narrow hulls and vast sail areas. They were known as the greyhounds of the sea, racing each other from Sydney or Melbourne to London around the stormy Cape Horn. Famous names like Thermopylae and Cutty Sark earned reputations not only for speed but for carrying the first and freshest wool of the season, commanding top prices. The opening of the Suez Canal in 1869 had already doomed the tea clippers, as steamers could take the shorter route to China. But in the wool trade, clippers lingered longer, since early steamships lacked coal capacity for the long voyage to Australia. Sailing ships still offered low-cost freight and could carry wool directly to Britain. Yet, by the late 19th century, railways across Australia and massive efficient ocean liners changed the equation. Steamers no longer needed constant refueling and provided faster, regular services directly to Britain and continental Europe. The days of the great sailing wool clippers were numbered. The final full-rigged ship built specifically for the Australian wool trade was the Chromdale, launched in June 1891 from Barclay Coal and Company of Glasgow. A steel-hulled vessel of 1,903 tons, she measured 271 feet long and 40 feet wide. She had a sister ship, Mount Stewart, launched a month earlier. Owned by Donaldson, Rose and Company of Aberdeen, Chromdale was placed in the Sydney trade, her first master being the experienced Captain Edgar Henry Andrew. Her maiden voyage was dramatic. In March 1892, homeward bound from Sydney, she became trapped in a massive Antarctic ice field near Cape Horn. Captain Andrew described sheer cliffs of ice rising 300 to 1,000 feet, hemming the ship in on all sides. By careful seamanship, he extricated Chromdale from what could have been certain destruction, a legendary episode in clipper history. Despite this peril, Chromdale proved a fine sailor. In 1894, she made her best passage from Sydney in just 80 days. Sailors regarded her as a happy ship, well kept and well run. Her final voyage, however, was beset by misfortune. Under Captain Arthur of Dundee, disaster struck even before her end. The second mate drowned in Montevideo. A seaman and a boatswain were both killed by falls into the hold in Australia, and later another sailor was lost. In January 1913, Chromdale left Tal Chile with a cargo of nitrate bound for Falmouth. After 124 days at sea, she approached Cornwall in thick fog when, most unfortunately, a steamer was passed which advised Captain Arthur to alter his course. On the night of the 23rd of May 1913, she struck the rocks at Bass Point near the Lizard Lighthouse. Though calm seas allowed all 24 crew and Captain Arthur's wife to escape safely, Chromdale quickly filled and settled against the cliffs. The crew was able to take to the ship's lifeboats and raise the alarm by sending up flares. The men in the signal station almost directly above them sent for the Hedges and Lizard lifeboats, and it was so quiet that they were able to communicate this to the crew below via a megaphone from the cliff top. Despite the still weather and the imminent promise of rescue, the crew were highly agitated. Perhaps because of their previous bad luck on the voyage, perhaps because of the dark and fog and the suddenness of the disaster. Whatever the case, it appears that some acted in a disorganized and irrational way. The ship's dog, a fox terrier that had been the Chromdale's pet for over 2 years, was killed by the crew member to save it from drowning. In the panic, men that had been sleeping below left the ship with barely any clothes on, and an elderly seaman called Isaacson lost the whole of his life savings over the side of the ship. Amongst his effects were his bank book and a little bag of gold which he had carefully hoarded up, and those he had unfortunately dropped overboard in his flight from the sinking ship. The lifeboats of Hedges and Lizard came to the rescue. In a strange twist, some crew returned aboard the next morning to recover belongings, only to be trapped when the ship began to break up, requiring a second rescue. Within a week, Atlantic swells destroyed the wreck completely, leaving nothing to salvage. She was sold for just £41 at auction before the sea finished her. The wreck of the Chromdale marked not just the end of a ship, but the end of an era. She and her sister, Mount Stuart, were the last wool clippers ever built, symbols of a vanished age when speed under sail ruled global trade. By 1913, steamships and modern liners had taken over the wool routes, carrying Australia's golden fleece across the world. The Chromdale's tragic fate at Bass Point stands as a dramatic final chapter in the proud story of the wool clippers.